So at the time that I posted my last video on this whole Ana Kasparian versus left-wingers who are her friends, a lot of them backstabbing her over completely innocuous comments, we had not received commentary from Cenk's nephew, and I honestly didn't expect a lot from him, likely because, you know, he has familial connections with Cenk, being his uncle and the person who gifted him his entire career, and he's known Ana for probably over a decade. I thought he would stay out of it or give a lukewarm take or something like that, especially when you consider that he's somebody who's admitted online that he is absolutely terrified of the transes mob. He doesn't even want to play a Harry Potter game because he's afraid of how viciously they'll come after him.
Only reason why I'm not playing this game, and I know a bunch of other people are not playing this game, is because we know that it's not worth it to get bullied endlessly and called transphobic endlessly when we have massive queer communities and audiences. That's it. Everybody knows how much leftist motherfuckers love to chirp on the internet. They got no power. All they do is chirp, chirp, chirp. And that's precisely why so many people that would otherwise like play it, maybe even raise money for charities or whatever, they're not doing it. I knew that this was going to happen. That's why I wanted to set it up ahead of time. I got yelled at endlessly and relentlessly on my alt account. Like, they were making it seem like I was already transphobic for even thinking about this. And now, look at that.
But to my surprise, that Cenk's nephew actually did address the controversy. He did a little segment. It was posted to a Clips channel. I watched the segment, and this is the point where you place your bets on whether or not Cenk's nephew backed people that he knows for a fact are being strawmanned, his family, the people who started his career, his close friend of over 10 years, or decide to sell them out, backstab them in order to please the transes mafia. Now, the title of this video probably makes this 100% clear, but I just want you to know that that's the setup for this story. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to Ana Kasparian for collaborating to promote the website.
But let's get started with TYT drama, okay? So what happened a couple of weeks ago, Ana basically popped off and said, like, I don't want to be called a birthing person. I'm sick and tired of this idea. I'm a woman. I'm not a birthing person. I will never be called a birthing person. You can never call me a birthing person. Birthing person, birthing person, birthing person, birthing person, blah, 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 blah.
So in my previous video on the topic, I specifically highlighted an incredibly dishonest and gaslighting tactic that was being used by disingenuous left-wingers as a way to dismiss Ana's points and Cenk's points related to this topic.
Now, for many people, it was like, what? Like, who the did this to you? Like, I don't, what do you mean? Like, are there just people going around saying like you're a birthing person? No, I don't think so. It was one of those things where like what she's saying isn't like unreasonable. You know what I mean? Because being reduced to your like reproductive capabilities would be really ridiculous. And that's precisely why nobody uses it in the real world.
Because overall, and you can see this in tweets that Cenk's nephew later shows on this stream, one of the things that they're trying to highlight is that this language is only satisfying to a very niche portion of the virtue signaling left, not the overall general population. It actually turns a lot of people off unnecessarily, so it is not something that you would want to have in all these political documents and whatnot. And while Ana also additionally doesn't like it personally, it's not about everyday people in everyday conversation directing these terms specifically to her.
Left-wing extremists help right-wing so much. 66% of this country is left-wing, according to polling on policy issues. They don't believe in defunding the police or being called Latinx or calling women birthing people or abolishing prisons. Anyone who claims they do is lying.
Now, I want to be clear. What I would call the extreme left don't have bad intent. I think the right wing has bad intent. I think it's arguable whether the corporate wings of both parties have bad intent. But the extreme left is not helping our situation. So when you've got 2/3 of the country on your side, lean into winning issues. And by the way, trans rights is a winning issue. And we've defended trans rights probably longer than any show in American media history. Okay. So now when we say something simple like, we're positive women want to be called women and they don't want to be called birthing people or people with uteruses. And by the way, some like Anna are actually offended by that. You're not being inclusive, you're being exclusive, and you're choosing to fight on losing ground for no reason when we have all the winning ground in the world.
However, the left does not want to address that point. They don't want to talk about it. So instead, they lie. They specifically take her out of context, and they try to make the issue about how, oh, nobody is specifically saying you, Ana Kasparian, on a consistent basis is a birthing person or a person with a uterus or similar. That's not the issue at hand. Cenk's nephew knows that's not the issue at hand, but he is so terrified of the transes mafia that he will not stand up for his friend, for his uncle, for the people who gifted him his career.
It's utilized in either academic concepts or medical concepts, right? It's either used in medicine, where it would, you know, it would work.
So first and foremost, birthing person, person with a uterus are not medical terms. The medical term for somebody who can give birth, get pregnant, has a period, and whatnot is female. That's the scientific term for that. If you have somebody that's pregnant, the presumption is that they are female. However, the transes don't like the idea of people being biologically female. They play this game where they say sex is different from gender, except when we also want to attack the concept of sex, then they're not so different because they're both made up and they're both socially constructed. And again, this is one of the reasons why transes acceptance is actually going down in recent years, because unlike the gays, we're very much in the live and let live. This is something between consenting adults. It doesn't bother you. The transes, or at least the activists on behalf of the transes, because I'm sure regular transes people don't want all of this nonsense. They don't want all of this smoke around them. They probably just want to live their regular lives, are advocating for everybody else to change in order to acknowledge them. As I said in my previous video, it would be like, instead of the gays saying, hey, we just want to have our own relationships, love is love, it's in the privacy of our own home, to then have come out instead and said, hey, you actually have to watch us make out, you have to participate in it, you have to approve it, it's not about tolerance, it's about you praising it to undying ends. And that's what Cenk's nephew is doing, and again, it's pure and utter cowardice.
Anna said birthing person thing, which was stupid, it was silly. But you know what? Here's one thing you're not supposed to do in that circumstance. Double down, triple down, quadruple down, which she did. And then Cenk got in, and Cenk started defending her too.
So right there, Cenk's nephew's like, Ana Kasparian shouldn't have said this. She should just shut her mouth, presumably, because the transes are having such a difficult time, not realizing that shoving transes nonsense in people's face and demanding that they comply, that they participate in it, is likely a portion of the problem. But then he gets mad that she doubled down, triple down, and quadrupled down. And by the way, this is another aspect of the gaslighting that people on the left, friends of Ana Kasparian, in this case, somebody who got his career gifted to him by his uncle, Ana Kasparian's boss and close friend, Cenk Uygur, are doing, which is saying that she's doubling down and doing this for no reason, when in reality, people have been attacking Ana Kasparian for weeks over this. They've collected together a bunch of panels of lefties in order to criticize her. They've attacked her as delivering right-wing talking points, being a transphobe. They've said this random bad thing happened to the transes, therefore, Ana Kasparian wanting to be called a woman is actually killing people. Like, this is the level of dialogue that Ana Kasparian is having to deal with, and I need to point out that Anna and Cenk are not at all changing their position on transgenders. They're super pro-transes. They suck up to the transes. What they are saying is that tactically, a bunch of this language is not helpful. It's not winning people over, and it's likely alienating a certain segment of the population. And considering how close elections can be, this is likely not the thing you want to do. That's all their position is. Cenk's nephew knows that's the position, and yet he won't acknowledge it because he doesn't want to address it, because if he did address it in an honest way, it would anger the people in his audience.
When the trans line dropped, they basically were like, a lot of people were like, oh, that's it. They're making like a rightward shift. And I think that they're going to stop covering trans issues? No, I don't. And I said this before. I said this originally. Do I think that they're going to stop covering issues? Absolutely not. Of course they're going to keep covering trans issues. Do I think that they're transphobic? I don't even think that they're transphobic overall. But this kind of output is literally lending credence to transphobes. That's it. The moment that you see Ben Shapiro retweet you, the moment that you see Carrie Lake be like, oh, thank God you're popping off on this, that's the moment where you go, oh, no, I'm being used. I'm being used by right-wing forces. I should definitely put a stop to this immediately and make sure that everybody understands what my principles are.
It's not lending credence to transphobes to say, hey, look, the term woman is perfectly fine. It's perfectly acceptable. We don't need to replace women in all public documents in order to placate this minority. It likely does more harm to the left than good to focus on these language policing issues. So it's not providing fuel to the transphobes. All it's doing is saying, hey, we want to win elections. We think this is the best way possible. And in reality, their reaction, their insanity over this is what people are making content about. This is what people are pointing to highlight the fact that these people are objectively crazy. Again, Cenk's nephew is actively backstabbing a woman that he's known for well over 10 years. He knows her positions and a member of his own family in order to placate these people. And he's the biggest streamer on Twitch. He's essentially the Steven Crowder of the Twitch platform. He also has a huge presence on YouTube, and he absolutely has no balls at all. Imagine being this much of a coward when you have a platform large enough to set a trend. If he said, listen, I understand what Ana is trying to say, the way that these people are attacking her is ridiculous, I could maybe even say, you know, I'm super pro-trans and all that stuff, and so is Ana, then that would be fine. But instead, he jumps on with the mob. The guy has the largest platform, yet he's bringing up the rear and following all these other lefties because he can't really have any outward positions for himself. And by the way, he talks about how he got himself into controversies and all of that, and how he's been mixed up in these things.
Okay, this happens to me regularly. People put words in my mouth. People go crazy over shit that I say, not understanding the actual, not understanding what my like legitimate, genuine, well thought out, well crafted perspective is on any kind of matter, and they just like hyper focus on one moment or one instance, and they go, "Oh, that's you. I'm reducing you to that." That's what you're doing. And the more you double down, the more you triple down, the more people are going to think that that is, as a matter of fact, you.
Cenk's nephew's controversies far more insane. Remember when he attacked Dan Crenshaw for losing his eye, said America deserved 9/11, and like the true coward that he is, he went on the Young Turks because he was still over there at the time, and had Cenk basically rehabilitate his reputation. He put on a suit so he was actually dressed like an adult, and then he pled, English isn't my first language, even though he speaks perfect English, as a way to obfuscate what he said.
Said America deserves 9/11,
right, but that's
and
still
in that
wrong.
Moment, well, maybe you can chalk it up to English being my second language or whatever you want to chalk it up to.
So this guy is a coward through and through. This is just one of the most egregious examples of it.
Now, I love Oleyemi. I think Oleyemi is great. I'm excited to have her on the broadcast. Hopefully, eventually, her and Lol Overruled were supposed to come on the broadcast. She's a wonderful person. She does a lot for, she does a lot for criminal justice reform. And she's great.
Now, again, the reason I'm emphasizing the word cowardice right here is because all of these people are jumping on and extrapolating things that were not said. They're straw manning and gaslighting Ana Kasparian for a very innocuous take while they're bending over backwards to help other figures that are clearly and obviously acting in bad faith. Cenk's nephew just talked about how much he loves Olay. Oh, she's so great. I want to have her on the broadcast and all of that. Olay did Ana Kasparian dirtier than any person who hates Ana Kasparian that's actually on the right wing ever did in response to this whole thing. Again, I will pull up the tweet from the last video. Don't you dare call her a birthing person, but she'll gladly call you the N-word. Gladly call you the N-word. And then there's a link to a video. Now, in that video, there are clips of Ana Kasparian saying the N-word. However, what she's doing is covering the news and covering stories specifically where white people call black people the N-word. And spoiler alert, Ana Kasparian is condemning those people. So Olay, in order to call Ana Kasparian a racist for no reason other than that she wants to smear her in a bad faith way, puts out this video of out of context clips of Ana Kasparian reading quotes and condemning use of the N-word. By the way, a very standard practice from the news media because we didn't become even stupider in terms of context like we are now back in the time when these videos came out. And she puts that out there in order to just say Ana Kasparian is a racist. And Cenk's nephew never brings this up. He talks about how much he loves Olay, how she's a great person, how he wants to have her on the show.
Now, I love Olay. I think Olay is great. I'm excited to have her on the broadcast. Hopefully, eventually.
And Olay attacked Ana Kasparian in this way. And you might think, maybe Olay doesn't understand the context of it. Maybe she just thought that Ana Kasparian in all these different clips from all these different videos was just dropping the N-word on TYT all the time because that's how they rolled. They used to be the Klan network, and now they're not the Klan network. Maybe you think Olay is that stupid that she actually believed that. Well, let me disabuse you of that notion, because she got called out for this by people in the replies, and she responded in this way. It was never okay for a white person to say it. Black people were never cool with that. Never. There's no world where the same woman who is riddling off the N-word gets to act like birthing person is the slur of all slurs. But even if your argument was correct, if society can evolve to exclude racial slurs, it can evolve to include inclusive language. So she knows the context. She was told the context. And instead of saying, oh, let me delete the tweet, let me not do this to somebody because it's incredibly destructive to just smear somebody as a racist without cause and it causes me to lose my credibility, she then doubles down and then claims that Ana Kasparian is saying that birthing person is the slur of all slurs, but she was riddling off the N-word recklessly. And again, she knows it was during news reports. She knows that Ana Kasparian is left-wing, so the whole point of all of those news segments was Ana condemning those words, condemning the use of those words by white people. However, she just doubles down on it. And again, Cenk's nephew is praising this woman. He doesn't bring this up. He doesn't highlight this. He doesn't criticize it. He doesn't go to bat for his friend. Instead, he sucks up to Olay and says, oh, wow, I just can't wait to have you on my show. You're just amazing in every possible way. Isn't it nice how you smeared somebody that I've known for over a decade as a racist after pulling them completely out of context in terms of the birthing person thing?
But let's hear what...
It's bad faith. They know. They know there's a difference between gender and sex. They know that it is very possible for someone to be born a biological male or biological female, but in terms of gender, identify differently as a male or non-binary, but they still have the biological capacity, the physical capacity to get pregnant. So that's why the language, the rhetoric is inclusive to include those people. It is not a big deal, but they make it.
Oh my God, I had never seen this.
Now, they play the clip that I talked about in my previous video, and I actually did a whole video on it from 8 months ago, where Ana Kasparian was defending this inclusive language, and I said, that clip is ridiculous, because Ana back then was holding on to a ridiculous position. However, it's okay for you to change your mind over the course of 8 months, especially if you see that this language is not supported by the general population, and you're typically making a more pragmatic argument up first that it doesn't poll well, that the majority of people are not into this, and then you add on that you personally don't like it.
What would I do in this circumstance? I would say, guys, a lot of confusion has caused this internal rift on Twitter amongst prominent leftist content creators, activists, and the like. Okay? I want to clarify something. Okay? I overreacted to this birthing person controversy. Okay? I think that it's not necessarily utilized or deployed outside of academic circles, and even if it is by like weird, well-intentioned liberals who are just like thinking that they're doing the right thing or whatever, who cares? It is only and perhaps almost always weaponized by the right to make it like a bigger deal than it actually is. And I, in that brief moment, in a moment of weakness, lend my statements to also further that right-wing agenda at a time when trans people are constantly under attack by way of legislation and certainly online through mass harassment, cyber stalking, doxing. Obviously, this is the least significant thing to hyper-focus on. It's not a tweet. I'm just saying this is what I would say. Okay? It's irrelevant. I have always fought for trans rights and will continue to fight for trans rights. And I think that we should all focus on exactly that rather than anything else. Okay, that's it.
Now, Cenk's nephew wraps his segment by saying that, oh, this is what should happen. And again, he goes a little bit back and forth, and he doesn't go as hard on his uncle and on Ana Kasparian as the other people who are backstabbing them, likely due to the close familial relationship. But the way he wraps it up is with the Young Turks conceding absolutely every point, saying that they made too big of a deal out of it, even though they were making a specific point about strategy. Anna also added that she personally doesn't like these terms. These terms are being used by the mainstream Democratic Party. They're appearing in Biden's budget proposals and all of that. And it's the erasure of woman from the language. And it's really ridiculous. And it aggravates people for no reason, for no discernible benefit. And yet Cenk's nephew says, look, they have to say that they overreacted. They never should have brought it up. And they should apologize completely. That's what his PR advice would be to them. No word about all the people who attacked Ana Kasparian, who smeared her, who have been gaslighting her. He gaslit her throughout the course of this, trying to, again, make it about whether or not Ana Kasparian is being consistently called this personally. And, of course, no criticism of Olay going out of her way to intentionally smear Ana Kasparian as a racist over the term birthing person. And all of this is done under the guise that Cenk and Anna are blowing this up wildly out of proportion when, again, she is resorting to out of context racist smears against Ana Kasparian due to the fact that she said she did not like this term. That's it. They're the ones blowing it out of proportion. They're the backstabbers. They're the monsters. So yeah, Cenk's nephew is a bad guy. We already knew that, but he's also an unbelievable, unrepentant coward that ends up backing the people who are going out of their way to savagely attack his uncle, his uncle's company, and his friend that he's known for over 10 years, that he knows for a fact is not transphobic and is not racist, and said none of those things in the context of calling a black person the N-word, which is what Olay accused her of. Remember, she said she will gladly call you the N-word. Gladly call you the N-word. Not say the N-word when reading a quote from a newspaper in a time period when this was a common practice in all news media. She will gladly call you the N-word. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Cenk's nephew backstabbing Ana Kasparian. Till next time.